Welcome back, HAXManiacs. Today I'm going to do a different type of video. You may have noticed that I've done fewer projects this year, and there are a few reasons for that. The main one being that I lost my dad on February 3rd. It was unexpected, and when it happened, the desire to build just kind of went out of me. This is the hardest thing I've ever been through, and I wanted to talk about it, but I knew I couldn't get the words out. And now with Father's Day coming, I knew I had to make this video to honor him. And I've thought about this 1,000 times, how I want to do it, trying to figure out how to do it, and I want to make sure that I do it right. But I don't want to make a sad video. So what I thought I would do instead is I'm going to tell you 4 building blocks to be an amazing dad. And let me first say, I haven't mastered these, but I learned from a man who did. My dad always loved learning new things and doing things himself. He wasn't just a jack of all trades, he was a master of many. He was an amazing artist, silversmith, woodworker, draftsman, and so much more. He even knew how to sew because he was a parachute rigger in the Navy. And I remember him as a kid learning new skills and perfecting them. He just always wanted to know more, and he loved working with his hands. He always involved me in everything he did. Even when I was just in the way, he made sure that I felt like I was being helpful because he wanted me to learn. If I wasn't learning a skill, we were building model airplanes when he got home from work. Almost everything I know how to do today, I learned from my dad, and I worked almost every day of my life beside him, with the exception of a few years. We never had any arguments because he was always patient in teaching me whenever I was young. Clients would come into our shop and ask, "Don't y'all ever butt heads?" And I'd laugh and say, "Nah, as long as he does everything I tell him, we don't have any problems." As he got older, he still loved learning and teaching. He even started learning the ukulele after he retired. He would have art classes with my girls, and over the last year and a half, he would work with the girls on projects for my videos.
Okay, good. I can drill a hole here.
If you don't like building or creating, that's okay. The thing is, you're always teaching anyway. Every day, you're either teaching good or bad habits, because our kids are always watching and learning from how we live our lives. My dad busted his tail at work every day. Then when he got home, he did all the work that needed to be done there. He didn't have a lazy bone in his body. When I was about 10 years old, I would go around the neighborhood mowing lawns and, don't tell my mom this, but raking roofs. Now, it's hard to expand your business when you're little and you're dragging a lawnmower down the road. So to encourage that behavior, my dad built a trailer that I towed behind my bike that held the mower and all the accoutrements a 10-year-old needs for a flourishing landscaping company. Sadly, for the other kids in the neighborhood, they just couldn't compete anymore. I thought I was big time rolling down the road with that setup. And when we started our cabinet shop, I did most of the paint finishing while he did most of the construction. I'm much bigger than him, but he was as strong as a bull. He could work harder and longer than men half his age, even in his late 60s. Not one time in my life can I remember him complaining about work. He simply did what was needed to provide for his family, and he did it with a happy attitude. I know now that all of his hard work helped pave the way so that my sister and I would have an easier life than him. My mom and dad met when they were teenagers, and you wouldn't find two people who loved each other more than my mom and dad. This year would have been 53 years they were married. I heard him tell my mom, "I love you," 1,000,000 times growing up, and me too. I learned how to be a man and how to treat my wife and children because I saw how he loved his family and treated us growing up. He taught me to love God, my family, and my country. Later, he enjoyed living with us, and he loved spending time with the girls. He loved all his grandchildren very much. Every weekend was spent just across the house at Nanny and Papa's watching movies. Every once in a while, we'd catch him watching a cartoon, and he'd say, "Oh, I was watching it with the girls, and they left," and we'd pick on him. We knew better. This is a big one, and it's the biggest problem in the world today because so many people don't have it. Both he and my mom taught me to always strive for more, but be grateful for what you have. I've never heard my dad complain about somebody having it better or having more. He understood almost nobody gets a lucky break. That's just an excuse lazy people use so they don't have to try harder. When he found out he might not have much time left, he still didn't complain or feel sorry for himself. Instead, he said he was grateful for the good life he had. When he was just days from passing, we were all around him, and out of nowhere he began to pray. Not for himself, but for his family. He thanked God for the family that he had given him. If you don't have gratitude, that void can easily be filled with anger or resentment or entitlement. I wish I had my dad for 100 years. Being angry about losing someone might make it easier to deal with, but I realized that I had more meaningful time with my dad in his 73 years than most people would in 100, and for that I'm grateful. Dad's wanted to build this little fairy cottage in this tree stump for the last year and a half. Every time he'd drive by, he'd mention it, or he'd come out here and measure it. He just wanted to build it for the girls. And then his hips started bothering him and he wasn't able to get out here. So it's not as good as if he'd have done it, but that's for Dad.